Friday.
It is Friday.
17th of November,
We're having you.
2023.
Exactly, and Bob Mould is with us here. You are like royalty to us here at
Exactly.
Primavera
Oh,
Sound.
please. It's my royal
The
Robin
banner.
Hood everything.
Yeah, we brought you to a castle.
My
you
royal
know.
court.
It's a royal court. I mean, do you appreciate your status, shall we say, in the universe of, let's just call it, alternative rock? Like, do you appreciate the fandom and the regal treatment that you get from organizations like our own?
I certainly appreciate the fact that I can still make music for people, and I appreciate that the audience is still interested. As far as legacy and things like that, I mean, people say things, I hear things, but I just try to do my work and, enjoy the time,
Yeah, but there's not that, when you can smirk to yourself like, yeah, I did all those things, Husker Du, Sugar.
No, but there were some, but at the time in the 1980s, to set the stage, in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul, there was such a wonderful music scene. It's so supportive, venues and, record stores, independent labels. And there were two very different scenes in Minneapolis. On the north side of Minneapolis was Prince and Terry and Jimmy and a lot of the R&B music. And then on the south side of Minneapolis was Replacements and Soul Asylum and Husker Du and other bands. And everybody would come together at the old Greyhound bus depot, which was called Uncle Sam's. It was a disco, and now people know it as First Avenue. So, I mean, so we all grew up together making music, and, my small part in all of it, is impressive for other people to look at and say, but for me, it was just a bunch of teenagers making music, In Minnesota, 6 months of the year is snow.
Yeah.
Very cold, so we're all inside, drinking beer and hanging out, and what should we do? Oh, well, let's make music. So, that's where I started with everything. So, I try to remember that.
I read an interview with you recently, and you were talking about the early days when you were touring with Husker Du, and you were basically selling 7 inches to try to make money for gas. Do you miss those days a bit?
Well, I just finished a tour last month in the U.S., solo electric, by myself in a rental car, booking all my travel, counting the shirts in every night, playing a show, counting the shirts out, signing things for people. So it still sort of feels
DIY.
the same in a way.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, there's bigger tours, and then there's things like, the stuff with Foo Fighters, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But, I try to just keep doing what I do.
Well, since you've brought it up, what exactly, how involved are you in what's happening with Dave Grohl and Foo Fighters?
I've not spoken with Dave in a couple of years, but and a lot has happened, so understood. He's been very busy with all kinds of things. But the connection with Dave, I guess, would go back to 1991. I was in Europe touring solo, acoustic and electric. I played a lot of shows with Dinosaur Jr., who are playing tonight. And also on many of those festivals was Nirvana before Nevermind was released. So that was my first impressions, I guess, of them as a band. And fast forward to 2010, there's a music venue in Washington, D.C. called the 930 Club. And that's, that was comparable to First Avenue in Minneapolis. And that's where Dave Grohl grew up and played in punk bands. And we got together for a anniversary celebration of the club. And Dave was on the show and I was on the show. We were both playing solo, and I was in the room, and Dave comes in and says, "Can I talk to you?" Because we had never really spoken, and so it was our first real meeting. And he says, "I took a lot of things from your music." And I just said, I know. And then we've been great friends ever since, so we just got that out of the way really quick.
Every time he opens his mouth, he's always like sort of saying, by the way, I stole from the Gap, or he never says steal, he says I took from the Gap band, I took from Prince, I took from, he took from everybody. It's like, but you gotta love him, he's so honest and nice about it.
Yeah, he's such a regular guy, great music fan. It's very easy guy.
And I've never met you before this close, Bob, and you're such a nice man. You radiate this nice energy, but you were known for being a very angry young person back when you were touring with Husker Du.
Oh yeah,
and Sugar. Do you still manage to hold on to some of that angry energy sometimes for music?
Absolutely. I think the best example of that would be the most recent album that I recorded and released in 2020. It was an album called Blue Hearts, and it was a very angry record. I think in America the politics were terrible. The evangelicals are on the rise again, and anti-LGBTQ and pro-Jesus, and it's tough, it's a tough time in America. So that record was very angry. It was very much about this moment in time in 2020, 2019. But a lot of it I wrote from the perspective of October of 1983, which was when Husker Du was writing and recording Zen Arcade. And that was 3 years into the Reagan era, which was evangelicals and anti-gay. And, 40 years later, we arrive at the same place that we thought we left behind. And, as a gay man, I survived. A lot of people I know didn't in the 80s. So for me, it was particularly horrifying.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, yes, I can still conjure a lot of anger when needed.
Because I think Blue Hearts was, you consider the songs on Blue Hearts to be protest songs?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Can you give us an example of a specific?
It starts right off the bat with Heart on My Sleeve, talking about environmental damage and, religion back in the mix of the power structure, and Next Generation sort of calling out the lies, American Crisis really calling out the evangelicals and the hypocrisy of everything. Song after song, and it's funny if people see the vinyl package of the album when they open it up and they pull the dust sleeve out. There's a picture of me in a suit with a guitar. And that's my homage to a famous photograph of an American folk singer named Phil Oakes. So, that was, the whole idea was remember what it was like in 1983. Yeah. Remember how little I had. Remember how much my government wanted me dead. And then also sort of incorporating folk singers from before. So, yeah.
In the sort of punk audience, to give it, it's a very wide term, but I think you know what I mean. Is it still a fairly kind of open-minded audience, would you say? Or do you still come across kind of prejudices and things in that audience?
Not inside my personal audience. The people that come to see me know my politics. They know my sexuality. They know my history. So I think they're there to support me as much as I am to entertain them, which is wonderful. Sometimes with, in a festival setting, it's a broader audience, so I can't speak for the entire audience, but I think with punk music and I think with independent music, alternative music, everybody's very open-minded. I think there's room for everyone to be different, and be accepted. So that's how I learned my way into it. So.
But you've been able to be an eyewitness from stage for decades now, and I've read something written about you where they were saying that you use rock as a tool of communication.
Yeah.
How do you see it nowadays? We sometimes discuss that there's a feeling that guitar-driven rock, shall we call it, has lost a little bit of resonance with the younger generations because they're into their, their electronics, their computer-made music, the accessibility they have to make their own music and stuff. And how do you see it? Do you see that rock or guitar-driven music is in a healthy state from what you witnessed when you play the live circuit?
Yeah.
Or has it changed much?
I think guitar music and rock music is alive and well. I'm going to try to explain how I see the changes that you mentioned. I think a lot of it that I felt the change happen was after the George Floyd incident and Black Lives Matter. In 2020, I think everybody had to reconsider their lives and how, what kind of entertainment we watch and what kind of music we listen to. And I think in America, with progressive radio and media, there was if the table was this big for rock, all of a sudden now it becomes this big. So, this part is still fine, but now I think people who listen to pop music they're learning to accept, world music, music outside Western culture. So, it's great. It's just opening up, more possibilities for all musicians. Yeah. So that's how it feels to me. So.
Well, one of the things I love about what you did was in the 2000s, it looked like you suddenly embraced dance music and DJing and going out.
Which is a totally different scene, although similar energies. Maybe.
Yeah. I was just wondering, what did sort of hardcore Huskadoo fans make of that? About Blow Off and the fact that you were DJing and...
I think they were interested. I don't know if they understood what I was doing. I'm not sure I understood what I was doing, but as I got deeper into it, beyond the making of Modulate and the Loud Bomb records, when I moved to Washington, D.C. in 2003 and started, hanging out with other DJs and electronic musicians, and then I started, DJing a lot of sort of LGBTQ parties, and they got very, very popular, all over America, and the party that my friend and I used to do. I don't know if my rock audience understood that. Sometimes a few would come each night, very early in the night, and I would just be DJing a little bit, quieter music, and they would come up and say hi and just say, "Oh, we just wanted to see what's going on. We're going home." And then 2 hours later, it's 1,000 guys that look like me with their shirts off, playing peak hour, whatever, Eric Prydz or whatever.
Yeah. Like
so,
super euphoric house.
big house. Yeah. So for me to build that party for the community was meant so much to me, because I had 20 plus years of being the rock guy in the van just doing rock touring, and I think my crowd is very tolerant, but to put myself deeper into that, the gay lifestyle and have this party for the community that meant so much. It really opened up a whole new world of music, and I hope that I took some of what I learned with electronica and to bring it back to the rock music. So, it was fun. It was a great decade of learning new stuff. So.
Do you still DJ?
No, I haven't DJ'd out in 4 years, maybe.
But if there was a party, you could have your arm twisted.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite stories with that is when Bob Mould Band, the rock band, punk rock band, played All Tomorrow's Parties in 2008 in upstate New York. I had just come from a DJ gig, and I had all my guitar stuff with me. I had both identities with me. Yeah. And I remember the the person from Pitchfork who was curating the festival was in a panic because the DJ had canceled. And he's like, "Oh my God, the DJ canceled. What will we do?" I said, "I got this." And then I went in and, had all my big house stuff with me. So it's like all these indie rock people coming in, and there's like this house party, with women with the, like, whoa there, girlfriend, what's up?
Oh my God! Yeah. But the best parties ever, isn't it?
Yeah. They just happened, So that was like a great sort of meeting of, that was an accidental. If somebody said tonight, can you do it? I'd be, I don't have my stuff, but that night I did, and it worked. So.
You said in a recent interview, and I apologise for quoting yourself back to you, my lifeline is playing this music for people live.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very strong, lifeline. Like, why is it so important to you playing music live?
This is what I do with my life. I mean, as a small child, I used music to heal myself, sort of in a, violent childhood, So music was the way that I could get away from it. It's all I've ever really done. It's how I make a living. It's how I keep my sanity. It's pretty much what I have to offer. So yeah, it's a lifeline. I don't know if younger musicians have that kind of connection with their work, because there's music is different now. When I was a child, that was everything. And then, we had video, then there's movies and video games, and now the internet, and now TikTok, and everyone is famous. So, maybe people have a different, they assign a different value to music than for me, because it was all I knew and all I had. Yeah. So, there's more choices for young people. So maybe it's different these days. I don't know. But
are you good at being at downtime when you're not touring or composing music? Are you good at not, just chilling and relaxing?
I can chill.
You can.
I can chill. And the key is, when I'm really happy, don't write. Don't write music. Just enjoy.
Only when you're angry. Only.
Or when I'm confused, or when I'm sad, or but when I'm happy and I'm having a good time and I'm chilling, no, you don't write me. I don't write too much then.
Is that something you've learned because you were trying to force yourself to write music when you were happy and it wasn't coming?
Well, I've had times when I've forced myself to write because of deadlines, and it's not always the best work. So I know better now to give myself time and just enjoy the good time. So.
Mm-hmm. And so you're probably going to play music live in your 80s, 90s, 100s?
If I make it. Yep. I mean, when they say there is no room for you, or when that's it.
And tonight we're going to be able to hear music from your entire career, from Husker Du, from Sugar, from
Husker Du, Sugar, Bob Mould solo. Wow. No electronica, but
okay. Well, you never know. Primavera is.
There'll be the cabins afterwards.
There's always cabin parties, So if you've got playlists.
Yeah. Well, the last time I played in Prima in Barcelona, I did a solo electric set in the underground parking garage.
Yeah.
Oh. And then the next day, I was DJing on the island.
They roped you in for that.
I did that, and then it's like I'm getting ready to wrap up, and I'm like, oh, hey, Matthew, dear, are you next? Yeah. And I was like, I love your music, so it was good. It was good.
I wanted to ask about the Sugar days, if I may, because I'm very much a child of the 90s, and that's how I first got to know your music. Sugar were absolutely massive in the UK.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you feel like a kind of star, for want of a better word?
I knew it was possible. I felt it coming, and then as it was happening, I was like, here we go. I was like, here we go, crazy time. It was, that was a magical time, the early 90s, being on Creation Records. Yeah. What an amazing label. My peers at the time, Swerve Driver, who, I love telling the story of getting. When I was living on a farm in northern Minnesota in 1988, I had a post office box, and I went one day, and there was a tape of a band they said, here's a couple songs that we have. This is our name, but we're about to change our name to Swerve Driver. Would you put out our first single? So there was, so it was, they were on Creation. My Bloody Valentine, Loveless is, top 3 albums in my world. So, and then later Oasis, and I mean, there's Primals. I mean, just everybody. That was such an exciting time.
Yeah.
And that was, that was like the peak of the weekly music newspapers, Enemy Sounds, Melody Maker,
Select.
And it would just be everybody at the pub, telling stories and sort of making up stories that you would see in the paper 2 days later. I mean, that was pretty crazy times. I mean, that was, and if you're a child of the 90s, I mean, you're having your second childhood this year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 1993 again, isn't it?
The best year. The best year. I think
The best year ever.
Were you sort of involved in the sort of decadence of creation records?
Oh, Ben.
No,
That's all right.
I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking alcohol in 1986. Thank God. Otherwise, we would not be having this conversation. So I was sober through that whole period, and still am. But it was, except for the marijuana. But it, which is hardly a drug.
Yes, exactly. It's medicine.
It's medicine, exactly. But it was. There was a lot of wildness going on around. But it's not my. I'm not a chemicals guy. I just little weed, and that's about it.
So tonight you're playing at 8:10.
Yep.
On the big stage.
Oh my God.
Over there. Are you going to see some other bands afterwards?
Well, Dinosaur Jr., of course.
Yeah.
Might grab a guitar and.
I haven't heard anything.
Because he's been inviting people. He's been playing London this week, and he's been inviting like Stuart from Mogwai, Kevin.
I saw
Shields.
Kevin was there. Yeah.
I don't know. It's like he seems to be very open to inviting guests on stage. So who knows?
Well, they better give me a heads up so I can touch the song as they say before we go up there. But I mean, I just saw Jay and Lou last month. I was in playing a show in Amherst, Massachusetts, where Jay lives 5 minutes walk from the club. I went over to the house and had dinner. And then at the show, it was the night before my birthday.
Oh, my God.
So Jay and Lou and my friend Jason Narducci, who was supporting the tour, they went and got a birthday cake and came up on stage and did the whole happy birthday thing.
My God.
So,
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. So I owe them a song if they want. So we'll see.
Well, Jay, if you're listening,
I know where they are. I saw the sign already, but trying to think who else. Well, Off is
Off.
Oh my God, and Damien from Fucked Up.
Yeah.
We're all. You'll see us in the corner talking about pro wrestling for 3 hours. So yeah, that'd be.
That's true. That's true. If we didn't touch on your career in pro wrestling as a commentator and stuff.
God, I was a writer.
Yeah, a writer.
Writer and producer of the show. It was nuts. Yeah. So I did that for 7 months in the fall of 1999, and that's a crazy world. Thank goodness I played festivals and toured my entire life before I went into that big wrestling circus.
But
craziness.
You could say that like the wrestling circuit it comes a little bit before the festival circuit kind of phenomena. No, they're kind of whole grid system. What?
It's the same idea.
The same idea.
Spectacle and
lineup of names.
Yeah.
All these characters and personalities.
Yeah, very much so. In a different way, more whereas music is music, wrestling is sort of like an updated. It's like updated Shakespeare a little bit. There's a certain number of stories. You stole my wife, you stole my car, you stole my money. Revenge. It's pretty basic.
Yeah. Shakespeare is always at the root of it.
Yes.
No, I was just going to ask, at what age did you realise that wrestling wasn't real?
When did I realize? Yeah. I knew, but when I had it confirmed, when somebody in the wrestling business actually, as they say, smartened me up to it, I was probably like 22 or so. But then then it was sort of like, this is how it works. And I was like, now it all makes sense. The magic of it, the magic. So.
But still, theater is also made up, so it's like,
course.
Hey, it's just like,
of course, yeah. It's just like, oh, that's right, yeah, grown men with little bits of a razor blade, cutting themselves every night for real blood. Okay, that's...
yeah, that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting, right?
Yeah. Well, Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for it's because I wasn't sure. So we'd love to continue talking, but I think we have
got more people coming up.
Guests waiting as well. There they are arriving.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Thanks,
it's been an honor.
Really fun. Thank you.
It's been an honor, seriously, and we look forward to seeing your show at 10 past 8.
10 past 8.
10 past 8. All right, great. Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.